All right, y'all, we got some chi-squared write-ups that we need to do since the people that know are saying that we'll have chi-squared write-up. So here we go. So this first one, this is a question. It says a random sample of, and it says a random sample. That's one thing between chi-squared test of independence and homogeneity. It's how many samples there are. If it's one sample, it's independent. If it's two sample, then it's homogeneity. But this one says a random sample of 385 students from a large high school answered a question: does security cameras make you feel safer or make school feel safer? And then they give the responses. And then we're gonna work from here. This one is a matrix setup. And again, we wouldn't be using the totals columns when we plug them in. It would be this 4x2 matrix that we're gonna get. Okay, now the first question, and this is a very common, we have gone over this, is how do you find a single expected count? All right, so I want the expected count for this box. So what we do is we take the column total, so 154 times the row total, divided by the total. And I have it over here on the side, but you just plug that one in and get the answer. 36.4 is the expected counts for 11th graders who said no. Okay, so that's one. That is a skill I feel very strongly, even if this is not an FRQ question, that you will need to know how to do that on the multiple choice test. This one also had it as an FRQ. All right, and the next one says, do we have convincing evidence that there's an association? Now this one said association, which means independent as well. So remember, and I use independent, dependent. They might use association and not association, but we'll deal with that here when we get to the write-up. So here we go. So we're gonna use this information. We're gonna do a write-up. So we've got state first, which is the null and alternate hypothesis. And for this one, for the null, it's always independent and the alternate is dependent. And what is independent? Grade level and whether or not you're thinking you're safer with the cameras. So your opinion. So we would say the opinion, actually, I'm going to start with grade level, and the opinion of cameras making school feel, it doesn't start with a W, okay, so when I go, if you go through and look up the notes, it's going to say independent or dependent. This one asked about association. Again, it doesn't matter. They will accept both wordings. What matters is that you get it correct. Independent or no association. So you could say there is no association between grade level and opinion of cameras making school feel safer. Okay, but this is how I wrote it, and this is what feels comfortable to me, so that's what you're getting. And then this next one is exactly the same thing, except dependent or is associated. And again, this gets a little boring to write out both times, but always give tediousness over difficulties. Okay, so associated instead of no association, or say there is an association, it doesn't matter, but there you go. And then we're gonna go ahead here and I'm gonna make my alpha 5%. A lot of times they'll even tell you what to make alpha. This time they didn't. All right, so that's the state step. And then we have the plan, which is, this one is a chi-squared test of independence. Instead of a two-sample t-test or any of that kind of stuff, it's a chi-square test of independence. Then we have conditions. So we have random, which we've always have. We have the 10% rule, which is to ensure random sampling, and then large counts. Okay, the independent, the random and the independent / 10% rule, same as they've always been. So we have a random sample of 385 students from the large high school. I went ahead and made this one a little bit more contexty than I have been doing, but it's fine. Okay, the 10% rule, they don't say anything, but we're going to assume more than, let's see here, the sample size was 385, so more, oh no, at least, look at me getting a little bit better. Not very good at remembering that, but at least 3,850 students in the large high school. Now, that's kind of a tough pill to swallow there. That's big. That's really big. But we're not getting into whether or not that number is too big. We're saying that for this to work, that needs to be the case. And then the large counts, this one's a little different. It's all expected, not observed, all expected counts greater than or equal to 5. All right, and then we're going to give those expected counts. All right, on the calculator, let's make sure we can see this okay. All right, good. So I'm gonna go stat test. Oh, I'm sorry, first before I do that, I need to go to matrix and I need to edit matrix A, and this needs to be a 4x2 matrix. And again, I'm putting in the yeses and the nos, not the totals. Sometimes they won't give you the totals, but they had to for part A. All right, and there the matrix looks in the same shape and everything right there. All right, and then I'm gonna go stat test, chi-square test. We do that for independence and homogeneity. We use the same test, letter C. Observed, expected, just go ahead and hit enter, enter, enter. And we got this information and we need this. Yeah, I'll just have to retype that in. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to second matrix, go to edit matrix B, and there's our expected counts. So all expected counts were greater than or equal to 5. And so we had yes and no, and then we had 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then all these numbers. Don't round these to whole numbers. The expected counts can be decimals. They will be upset if you round them. All right, so then there we go. Now we got this matrix here, and I needed to run the test to get that. I mean, you could have done them each individually, and there's our 36, actually it was 36.4, right? The one that, yeah, that was the one we had to solve for right there. But this gets them all. And again, if we had to do all this and they asked us for the expected count, you could actually just get it from here, but they probably want to see a little bit of work there. All right, so then the do step, again, now I need to go back and rerun that test, which isn't a big deal. Okay, and then I got chi-squared value is 9.8. The p-value is 0.02, so we're going to reject the null, and degrees of freedom is 3. All right, so chi-squared equals, and we're going to have to come back in here and fill in the work. But I'm going to go ahead and put the answer and put p-value is 0.0203 maybe, and then degrees of freedom equals 3. All right, for the work, we're going to use, hold on, let me get a purple. On your formula card, the front and the very, 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 very bottom, observed minus expected squared divided by expected. Observed, the first one was 67. Expected was 57. Square that and divide it by 57. Okay, so that's just filling in. And then we need to do a couple of these. All right, then the next one I had, observed 28. Expected 38. 28 minus 38 squared divided by 38. And etc. I'm going to go plus dot, 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 dot equals 9.86. You really only need to do 2 of these to show the pattern, and then you can go plus dot, dot, dot. And I moved that over kind of far. I probably could have slid that over to the left a little bit, but that's fine. And then the conclude, which, by the way, if you're watching this and everything I've just done makes no sense to you whatsoever, you always just name a p-value and then write the conclusion based on the p-value. And you should maybe be able to get this part right. Okay, and you'll need to use something on this. You'll need a null and an alternate to be able to write out the p-value. But if you get nothing, I mean, even if this is wrong and you have nothing here, you make up a p-value, you can still get a point for doing the correct conclusion, which would be since the p-value 0.0203 is less than alpha 0.05, we reject the null. There is evidence that grade level, and then evidence for the alternate. So basically, I'm just going to rewrite all this. That grade level and opinion, if school feels safer with camera, or camera, whatever, are dependent or are associated. So there is an association. And again, there's nothing to indicate that they need one wording over the other. All right, that's chi-square test of independence. That's the one that the stat medic thinks that is absolutely happening on the test. So please be ready for this. There's another one, it's with the stakes or something like that. And you can go on YouTube and test and just search for chi-square, chi-square test for independence, and you can get many more videos.